You probably clicked on this video because traditional budgeting just isn't working for you, and so you'd like some non-traditional alternatives. And don't worry, in this video I'm going to give you 3, including the one that I myself use. But first I want to say that hating a budget and being unable to stick to one is valid, understandable, and also you are very much not alone in this. In fact, you're so not alone that it's been studied and confirmed that for a large group of people, budgeting simply doesn't work, and trying to force themselves into the budgeting mindset is unhelpful and unproductive. We'll get to the budgeting in a second, but first let me read you this excerpt from Time magazine about it. Just like diets, research regularly finds that people don't stick to budgets. An experiment at the University of Minnesota in 2018 found that the practice of budgeting makes spending unpleasant, which discourages people from sticking to it. In the study, participants were randomly assigned to track either their Black Friday shopping or their regular spending over the same time period. After the holiday, participants rated how much they enjoyed spending in each category. Researchers found participants enjoyed spending less on the category where they tracked their budget. The study found lower enjoyment meant participants had lower intentions of continuing to track the budget. This effect, the researchers found, was stronger for the less money you have. Even if you're willing to push through the pain of budgeting, though, the practice doesn't come with many empirical benefits. In the same study by the University of Minnesota, the researchers also found that budgets aren't an effective way to reduce your spending. Following the spending of budgeters and non-budgeters for 10 weeks, the researchers discovered budgeting had a both positive and a negative effect on spending. When participants spent more than budgeted in 1 week, they compensated by spending less the following week. But the effect also went the other way. When participants spent less than budgeted in 1 week, they reacted the following week by spending more. The researchers found active budgeting causes these restrict and splurge swings over a long period of time too. The net effect, the authors concluded, was that budget trackers were no more likely to attain their financial goals than those who did not track their budgets. This contradicts the personal finance industry's insistence on putting budgeting at the forefront of any financial plan. And if you're trying to keep track of your money more responsibly, this is not great news to hear that budgeting doesn't work. But even worse than that news is trying to actually hold yourself to this budget where you restrict yourself too much and then over restrict yourself. You're not enjoying life, and so you just decide this, screw this, I'm just going to spend as much as I want, and that stops you from reaching your financial goals. So in this video, I'm going to teach you 3 ways that you can break this cycle and build a money management habit that's easy and intuitive. And the first one is kind of a hybrid between a yes fund and a pay yourself first type situation. But I promise that it's a lot simpler than both of them. Here is what I'm talking about. You have your salary, then you set aside money for essentials, and then the rest of the money is yours. Now, the salary is obviously whatever it is that you bring in. Then you set aside money for essentials. And this is everything. Your savings, your retirement, food, gas, insurance, rent, and debt, whatever bills you might have, you set that money aside immediately. That money is gone, it is accounted for. But then, whatever money is left over is yours. So as a practical example of this, let's say you bring in $3,000 per month. Let's say $1,500 of that goes towards rent. Let's say another $500 towards groceries, car payments, debts, everything else that you have to pay for is accounted for, and it comes out to $2,500 towards things that if you don't do will get you fired or arrested or something like that. Well, then that $500 that's left over, that is your yes fund. You don't have to divide that up between eating out and drinking and watching a movie with your friends. It is just a yes fund. It is an amount of money you have with which to say yes to everything you want to. And a really easy and practical way to do this that I myself actually do is to split your money up into 2 bank accounts. So your salary comes in here, and then you split it off into the 2 bank accounts. One covers all of your essentials, so your rent, food, insurance, retirement, etc., debts, anything else. And the other one is a fun bank account. Now, to do this, you do have to add up and figure out roughly what your lifestyle costs. But once you do that, just automatically set up your payment provider from your employer to pay into one account that amount, and then the other account, whatever is left over. And then that other account is a free money account. You don't have to budget, you don't have to do anything, you just pay your bills out of one account, and then you spend with anything that you want out of the other account. Now, I do realize that this is budgeting adjacent, and if that doesn't work for you, there's no worries at all. The other 2 suggestions that I have nothing to do with budgeting at all. So if you enjoy that and you want to see more videos both like this and videos covering business news, because that's kind of more of what I do, I'd love a subscription and to see you around here on some other videos. Now, the second method is called delayed gratification, or basically just a waiting period, where you have to wait a certain amount of time before you make a larger purchase. And if you want some specifics on easy ways to do this, here's an article that talks about it. The way it works is simple. When something you want to buy exceeds 1% of your annual gross income, you have to wait a day before purchasing it. This rule applies to discretionary spending for things that you want but don't need, like new sneakers or the latest gaming console. Say you want a PS5 selling for $800. If you make $50,000 per year, it would exceed exceed a 1% cap of $500. In that case, you'd have to wait a day before making the purchase. The 24-hour cooldown period provides some time to rethink the purchase. If you really want it, then what harm is there in taking an extra day to think about whether you truly need it? Now, this is kind of a liberal way to implement it, and honestly, if I were doing this rule, I would probably implement something a bit more strict and say that obviously essentials, food, gas, clothing, rent, etc. are things that you just immediately pay for. You need those things. But then anything outside of that, put it on a 24, maybe on the low end, but 36, 48, 72-hour cooldown period to see if you really need it. And I would apply this rule for anything that you don't absolutely need at that very moment. The 1% rule is absolutely viable, and if that works for you, that's great. But if you are not in a place financially where you want to be, then maybe you should apply this rule to all of your purchases. And honestly, the worse your financial situation is, probably the longer this waiting period should be. So if you're in a lot of debt, then maybe make it a week, maybe make it 2 weeks, maybe say you have to wait 30 days before purchasing anything that costs over $100. The main point here is to learn to default towards not spending money on things that you don't absolutely have to buy, especially when you're in a cycle of trying to save money to, like, maybe buy a house one day, start a family, or pay off debt. Now, of course, there's nothing wrong with buying things that you don't absolutely need. I know I have lots of things I don't absolutely need, like basically everything you see in this background here. But if it's crippling your financial future, then you probably need to change that habit. I do want to say that this is not going to be easy at first. Denying yourself if you've never done it before is going to be hard. But much like with anything else you do, you can learn to do it, and it does get easier. Think of it like riding a bike or running. Now, the final method of managing your money without actually having to do a budget is just getting a side hustle. And please don't click off the video. This is not a scammy side hustle channel promising you hundreds or thousands of dollars a week if you buy my course online. I'm not talking about starting a business. I'm talking about just doing something else that pays you. And then that money that you have is free to spend on anything you would like. This one is very similar to the Yes Fund idea that was number one, in that you have all of your main expenses going into a bank account that pays for your necessities, your bills, your rents, your retirements, etc., and then you work a side hustle, and that money is just for you to spend on anything under the sun that you would like. With this one, you can do two different things. With this one, there are two paths you can take. The first is working for yourself, and the second is working for someone else. If you want to work for yourself, that's great. You would probably want to do an app, something like DoorDash, Instacart, Rover, Airbnb if you have a spare room, but that might not be totally safe, Amazon Flex, where you deliver on behalf of Amazon, Uber or Lyft if you want to drive, TaskRabbit if you are handy with stuff, Handy if you want to like help people build things, etc., you get the idea. With these, you can set your own hours and you can make some pretty decent money. The other option is to work for someone else, and probably a pretty easy one is an employer like Walmart. You won't make a ton of money, maybe $20 to $25 an hour. There are some on here that are like $16 to $29 an hour, so you won't be rich by any means, but it's fairly easy money, and it does allow you to have stress-free spending on the other end. And you'd also probably be surprised how much money you can make doing simple things like shoveling people's driveway in the winter, raking people's leaves in the fall, or mowing people's lawns in the summer. Again, you won't make a life-changing amount of money, but a few $100 a week will easily cover any short-term splurgy things that you want to do and will add no stress to your financial goals. So good luck in your financial goals, and thanks for watching.